Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry. And we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Brannon Fowler. In this episode, we're talking about how new operators should think about equipment, small market strategy, and where the industry may be headed next.
People from the outside looking in think they're going to take it in and out all the time, but we know that if you're successful in the business, like you're running 4, 5, 6 days a week, like why would you take it in and out all the time, right? That truck's going to be really dedicated to that business. But Brian has a successful business there. He's got this is his third unit. He's growing like crazy. If you guys are seeing any of the stuff he's posting on Facebook, he's putting on 300 something customers a month right now, doing really well. And he said, have you ever thought about putting like a jack system on this thing? I was like, actually, I've got it drawn up. I just need to build it. And he said, go. And so I just had to put it together. And what was really cool about it was we took our skid that we had already developed and we made like one structural change, not even structural. We had to add like a bar to hold the front legs of the jack, and everything else kind of just slides in to the skid. So now, anyways, we actually shipped it to him. It's in his truck. I think he's operating it for the first time today. But it's got 3 feet of lifting capability, and he's got it in his driveway. And if he needs his truck, he can just lift that thing out and then drive out from under it and come back and drive back in and set it back down in his bed, put 4 straps on it and go to work. And so he hasn't lost the use of his truck, even though he's added this unit, if he needs it.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if it's, again, I don't think most operators are actually going to need it, because if they start that way, I think, you're going to dedicate a vehicle to this business. You don't need to take it in and out all the time, but there will be those unique scenarios where this makes a lot of sense.
Moving a kid into college and stuff like that. I need that truck back for the weekend, and
Right.
or going hunting. Somebody here I know hunts quite a bit. What would you do? What's that?
That's the big reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you tell a new buyer, somebody looking at equipment and they're shopping and they're not sure what they should prioritize and what they should, what would be great advice for a first-time operator that you've seen?
Well, I try to figure out, like people often ask me, they say, how would you start? Well, I say, I start the way that I started, but my resources are what my resources are. Yours may be different, right? Like, stay within your resources if you can. And that's why we kind of start with, we've got skids, trailers, trucks kind of going up from a cost perspective. I think it depends a little bit on like where they're going to be. A guy that's starting in a small town, I'll often be like, hey man, like start with a single bin trailer, start with a jack, or start with a skid or something like that. You probably don't want to get a $150,000 classic truck when your town's smaller. And then also, if you're going to be in a smaller town, you're going to need to be diversified in your service offerings. And it's funny today, actually, I'll probably make a post about it later. One of my guys, again, you get in these forums and people are so opinionated about like how this can be done, and they'll tell everybody that pops up in a small town, you can't do this in a small town. And you guys may even believe that. But I've got a guy today that just posted he's cleaned 20,000 cans in Del Rio, Texas. There's only 30,000 people in that whole town. He's been in business for 6 years. He's expanding now to Abilene, Texas, another not huge city. And so but he's also a guy that went in and understood trash cans in that scenario are going to be a portion of my business, right? It's not going to be my whole business. I'm going to have to develop like a home services business. Trash cans may be 20% of it. It may be 50% of it. whatever it may be.
Is he not to cut in, but is he an owner operator or does he have staff?
I don't entirely know. I think he's
Okay.
probably an owner operator,
Yeah.
but I know that he's told me many times, like we've talked on the phone and he's been buying parts or just, called for whatever information. And what's funny is that the unit I sold him originally is a trailer and it's a competitively built trailer, but it's one we brought in, serviced, upgraded, sold it to him. So we weren't the original manufacturer. We just
Yeah.
did what we needed to do to it to put it back on the market. And he's been running that unit for 6 years.
Because
And
I think there's a difference between owner operator surviving in a small town versus, trying to not be
yeah,
on a truck. Because the goal for
right.
many of us is to not be on the truck and not clean a trash can for
Correct.
the rest of our lives. But, that
And
may
again,
or
that's
may not be as easy in Abilene, Texas as it would be in
yeah.
Atlanta,
A
that
and
kind of
but,
things.
like, for him, I mean, I think he's told me it's one of the best I think he basically has created a job for himself, but he'd
Yeah,
rather
for
have a
sure.
job for himself than work for somebody else, right?
100%.
Well,
I'm not
And
downplaying that,
and
right?
he may never get off the truck, but he might be completely satisfied doing that,
Sure.
you know?
100%.
So
exactly. And the other thing is that it may grow to where that he pays someone
right,
to do that job. I
right.
mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you gotta know where you're headed.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I think you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. And, that might be it's a harder play for sure, and I think all of us would agree in
Well, it's
Abilene,
definitely
Texas.
a
I
harder
mean,
play.
for sure. So,
Yeah. Not
as
that it
long as
can't
they
be
go
done.
into it. And a lot of people, I think, go into this thing and they don't do their research. They were, I talk about it a lot where, there's some people that are destined and should be a W-2 employee forever. And then there's other people that are horrible W-2 employees because they,
Yep.
yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
right, exactly. I mean, that's,
3 for
although
3.
Brandon may be a W-2 at this point in your business, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? The entrepreneurial spirit is a
Right.
harder play for sure. So, but yeah, anyways, sorry.
Right, and so that Mike and I had a discussion the other day about what horrible, employees we were when we were working job.
Hey, I was ever a bad employee, but I hated working for somebody else, you
Well,
know?
and to be fair to, because you all weren't on the call we were having, but we're not bad employees. We do the work well. Whatever we were doing,
Right,
we did well.
right.
But, I may have had a snide comment here and there and stuff
Well,
that probably shouldn't have come out of my mouth, which
right.
frankly still happens now, but it's different when, the boss
Yeah.
doesn't tell you. So, anyways.
I just
Yeah.
try to get my boss to give me a little time off, and he just never allows it, you know? Like, he just like, "You
Well,
got
That
what?"
now, I
Montana calls you, he allows it.
hunter. Yeah. So, so, you and I talked a little bit the other day, Brandon, and, I'd like to quickly touch on this. Let's talk about PE money, and it's coming into the industry, and it's gonna change the landscape, I think. So,
Yeah.
tell us your take on it.
So, a couple years ago, I started kind of fielding some calls. Private equity companies started calling, interested in the industry. I don't know if you guys have gotten calls from these guys yet or not, but, I think one of the things that they had interest in me with was that I could point them to the Ben Magee or the Mike Walker, and be like, "Hey, these are the guys that I know are legit. Like, they've been around a long time. They've got multiple trucks, and so I pointed some guys in the right directions for some things. But I think, these private equity companies are really interested in home service businesses right now because there's huge opportunity. I mean, with 300, 400 million people live in the United States, and, everybody with a house is a potential customer.
And nobody fixes anything themselves anymore.
Nobody fixes anything anymore. And then what we do is reoccurring revenue, right? And not only reoccurring revenue, but with extremely high retention rates of customer bases. So private equity is getting really excited about this. There have been a couple of acquisitions happen already. I actually just sold a truck recently to one that bought one of my customers. And they called me up like, "I'm ready, just send me a truck. I got one on the ground ready for you." I think that company's going to go out and acquire several. What I think is going to happen, several of them have what's called a roll-up plan. And for those listening that don't know what that is, a roll-up is when a company like that, a private equity company, comes in and they buy a bunch of different, like maybe they want to go around the country or around a region and buy 20 or 40 companies that are established and then roll that into one bigger brand. And so what I think is going to happen in the next few years probably is you're going to start seeing some of the guys like, like potentially you guys are going to get offered checks for either your whole business or a percentage of your business. I think most of them are going to probably want to buy a percentage of your business and keep you guys as a, as an operator locally of that business, but maybe buy 80% of the business out or something. And then some of them are going to want to rebrand so they have big national recognition. And one of them we talked to last year, I think, they wanted to buy like the top 40 companies that they could get their hands on. So I'm just sitting there thinking like, man, if you could buy 40 companies, maybe roughly worth, $500,000 to $1 million a year in revenue, you've now got a single brand in the bin cleaning space that's doing $20-30 million a year in revenue when you roll that all up into one company, right? Or into one brand name. And so we're going to go from this very broken up industry potentially into this thing where there's could be 4 or 5 large brands that start to develop. And that's what's happened in every other, pretty much every other home industry. You got big brands all around the country, and I think we're going to see some of that. And so that isn't, again, going to hurt the new guy that wants to come in because these markets are still so untapped. You could have somebody doing that in your marketplace and start one of these, and you're probably not going to step on anybody's toes because 99% of the customers you talk to still don't know about trash can cleaning. But for the guy that's established too, it's going to create like a potential exit opportunity. It's going to create the payday potentially that they've been looking for. Or maybe you just say, no, like I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm going to be the guy that's going to dominate my local market and I'm going to stick with that. So, it isn't going to kill the industry or anything, or it's not going to limit the industry, but I think it's going to create new opportunities for everybody,
I agree. I think all it's going to do is, what's that they say? A rising tide raises all boats. That's,
Yeah.
I think it's really good for the industry, actually.
And we touched on it too. There's all different places to be in this business. You got the Abilene, Texas guy, owner operator. You've got, Ben and I, or you got myself who's on the truck periodically. You got Ben who's barely ever on the truck. And then you got other people like Brannon never, well, you were on a truck, I'm sure, but not certainly on a regular basis when you hired from day one type of deal, so.
Yeah, I filled in where I had to, but
Exactly. But so there's all different ways to get into the business, and then there's all different ways to operate the business. And in reality, you could be a micro bin cleaner in, one town and, all of whatever. It makes it lots of different opportunities.
Are you guys strictly trash? You are, right, Mike? You're strictly trash bins?
No, I do a decent amount of pressure washing, and then
Do you?
actually I started doing Christmas lights as well.
Okay.
Only for my customers. So I only do it for my clients. And, now if somebody calls me, I'll do it. But, in the pressure washing business, there's Chuck in a truck and somebody that's working to buy their 12-pack for the weekend.
Right.
And, those aren't the people I'm competing against or that I want to compete against. So most of my stuff is within my my sphere of influence or what have you. So, and
Ben, is your business straight trash cans or are you more diversified too?
My business we actually have consolidated. So when we started, we were doing a bunch of different home services. We
Right.
spun off a deck and fence company and sold that.
Okay.
We do very little pressure washing. There are a few things that we do, but very little. I would say that 98% of our revenue comes straight from trash cans. And, I know traditionally in a business, everybody says, oh, you should be doing this or that, but there is so much business in trash cans
Well, yeah.
that I'm just dialed in and focused, and I want to just keep growing that. And, any business that you can grow by 30 to 50% year over year, year after year,
Yeah.
why diversify? Let's just keep going. Let's get it
And
while
there's no
it's
shortage
good.
of customers left in the future either to go after.
Yeah. And if we, to your point earlier, I believe that we could probably put 25 or 30 trucks into Denver Metro. And, we run very efficiently with the trucks that we have. And I think that, I don't think that there's a lot of people that could service the amount of customers that we do with 4 trucks.
Uh-huh.
And we're just going to keep that model going. And then when we get to that number, maybe we expand into another area.
Yeah.
I
I
just
look
don't
at it as we've
see-
got a lot of customers and clients that like us, know us, trust us.
Right.
So why not market to those folks? And we do get a decent amount we have a lot of concrete around here. We have a lot of humidity. We have a lot of mold growth. So for me, it's just it's an easy play. And it's a profitable side of the business as well.
We actually used to just sub out a lot of stuff too. Like, we would, if it was a house, like we got some reputable pressure washing companies that were true subs,
Sure.
they signed on additionally insured and everything like that. And we would literally, book the lead. Like we'd remarket these services that we weren't going to actually go do ourselves. And
Yeah,
we'd
that's a
send
good
it
idea.
over to a couple different companies that we worked with. And one in particular, and he would go out and quote the job knowing 30% of the tickets coming to us. I already had the credit card on file because most of them were my trash can cleaning customer already. And
Sure.
we're making 30% on jobs we weren't touching.
Yeah.
And, so even when somebody said, like, I have people that come to me sometimes and go, I don't even want to talk to you about anything. Pressure washing is so competitive. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm like, all right, before you say that, I'm going to talk about it because you might potentially leave a bunch of money on the table that you don't even have to work for. Like, you just need to, you know, get the
Right.
work, like,
Right.
and sub it out to somebody and let a sub do the work and then build a customer. And oftentimes when people hear that, they're like, man, I didn't even think about that. I could sub out pest control. I could sub out lawn care. I could sub out all this stuff that I don't even have the equipment for.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I mean, when we were doing it, we were making, we were probably covering most of our operating costs subbing out pressure wash.
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very
I
good.
mean, we've looked at a bunch of things. We just haven't pulled the trigger. And what it comes down to is, I mean, a lot of it's time. I mean,
Yeah.
you still have to be able to market and book those jobs. And, we really have been just laser focused.
And that's cool
So
because they like right in this conversation, there's two completely different approaches and both of them work.
absolutely.
Right.
There
And that's the
usually
story.
is. I'm usually on the wrong side of the equation, but
I don't know about that, but
It seems to be working, Mike. It seems to be working.
yeah. So
awesome. Do you want to do a rapid fire, Ben?
yeah, let's do it. So what we do, Brandon, is just, give us kind of the first thing that comes to mind as we ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll call this a day. So
Okay.
what's one thing that you wish someone had told you earlier about the industry?
Man.
Rapid, Brandon. Rapid.
Yeah, I know. I don't. I'm not really a look back with regret kind of guy.
Think Family Feud.
Yeah.
You got to answer pretty quickly, and we'll do the good answer part.
I don't. I don't really have much for that one, guys. Like, I don't. I mean, something somebody would have told me before.
So the biggest train wreck you ran into while you were
What
operating or what have you that
what
you were
would have
like,
saved you
had I known.
real time or money?
Say that again.
What would have saved you real time or money?
I wish I remember what I put in my notes. uh,
That's all right.
I don't.
I'll go. If you're ready, you can go. I got a easier question for you.
All right, go.
All right.
Let me
So this
think.
is coming from a guy that only watched one episode and went out and bought a cowboy hat and maybe some cowboy boots. How accurate is Landman, the
Well,
TV
I mean,
show, the movie?
so the West Texas oil field is wild. There's no doubt about it. I saw some crazy stuff out there that probably isn't TV real, but
Okay.
like some of it's kind of, I mean, I don't know, it's 20% real and then the rest is exaggerated, but like
Okay.
it's wild.
Okay. Awesome. Are there
Yeah.
a lot of guys like what the heck's his name? Thornton, right?
Yeah, baby.
Billy Bob. Yeah. Are the guys like that? Are they just they've been doing it all their lives? They're weathered. They're
Well, what's different about his role in that is like he's actually like the executive, within that company. That dude's never going to be out in the field doing the stuff he's doing. They actually
Uh-huh.
have in a real landman, like that actual job isn't that. They go and like negotiate land contracts and get rights to drill wells and they're out talking to the landowners. They're not fighting cartels and
all right. So it's not all accurate.
covering up plane crashes. I don't think they're doing any of that.
So I should
Okay.
return my cowboy boots. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's a good movie. That's a good show. Everybody here likes it too in Texas.
Yeah,
So.
right. I love it. Awesome.
So you mentioned this a little bit earlier. Tell us about your rebrand. Give us a little sneak peek.
Yeah, so almost for the exact same reason that Mike misquoted my business name earlier, when we first created the trash can cleaners, there was just a handful of us that existed, right? And so we wanted the name to be very descriptive because, on the right, when you put it on the side of the truck, it was going to tell you exactly what we did. And for the service, I think it made a lot of sense, right? For us, it wasn't really a trademarkable name, unfortunately, because other people had kind of started to use the name a little bit within their name. Nobody had used the exact name. So we ran into trademark issues a while back. But, even with that said, we're like, well, this is our brand. You can still build a brand even if you can't get a trademark. You just can't protect things quite the same way. And then Hydrochem changed their name or they changed to what you quoted, what you said earlier. They're no longer, that it's not really known as, well, I guess the trash can part's not really known as hydrochem anymore. And so other companies started popping, even operators started popping up with such similar names that I think our name, even though we built a nice brand and reputation, like sometimes we get lost in the mix in terms of like who we are. Like, God, people call me all the time and they talk to somebody else that has a similar name and they're talking to me and I'm like, you didn't talk to me. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm going to talk to you now, but like you didn't talk to me. But at the same time, I have the same problem where I probably did a ton of educating and then somebody ends up somewhere else because somebody's got a similar name. And so, and also, we do some other fabrication. We do other, we'll build other things. We sell pressure washing systems. So like it's hard to, the trash can cleaners name doesn't necessarily make sense for everything that we do. So we're working on a rebrand. That's going to be, I think, just an easier name to remember, something that stands out, something that's more applicable to any industry that we want to apply it to, not necessarily just this one. And it's almost there. I've been working on it for a while, but
can we break the name? Can we break the name?
Yeah, we can. We're going to call it Viking. It's going to be Viking Upfit. That's what we're going to change to.
Okay.
Viking Upfit. So the word upfit is when you take a piece of equipment basically and you basically retrofit it into something else, right?
Yeah.
So like a truck upfitter is somebody that takes a truck and then puts a body on it and then, turns it into a new style truck. So essentially we're an upfitter already. And then we just wanted a name that would stand out. So my high school was the Vikings. My partners suggested the name Vikings. So we just thought Viking would be a word that, it sounds strong. It's going to be a cool logo. And,
nice.
And so awesome. I think it's just something that's going to pop a little easier, and, it'll stand out better with, against everything else out there.
You didn't decide to go with like Bulldog Upfitter, for your Mississippi State allegiance?
Bulldogs are kind of slow and unathletic animals,
I don't know. I'm about an hour and 15 minutes from the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think they would consider themselves slow, but
their dog is. Our Bulldog's way prettier than their Bulldog, that ugly white one they've got. Hey, they just played each other in the Super Regional in baseball. It was pretty spectacular. I don't know if you saw any of that.
Yeah, I didn't see it, no, but I know they our guys made it far, but not far enough, I guess. So, well, that's awesome. Well, what do you think, Ben?
Well, Brandon, how do people get a hold of you? How do they find you?
So you got a couple different options. You can call us anytime. The Trash Can Cleaners phone number is 210-971-4980. Our email address is clean@thetrashcancleaners.com. Our website's thetrashcancleaners.com for now, right? We're going to be changing that a little bit. Actually, that'll probably still just roll right into Viking.
I was going to say, keep pointing that old one to it. Don't miss those opportunities.
It will. And that's part of it, right? Figuring out like how to do that transition and not really lose the history that we have. That's part of why it's kind of been a slow process. And then I've got a huge Facebook group, Bin Cleaners Network North America, which is facebook.com/groups/Bin Cleaners Network. And those are the main ways. And I mean, I'd be glad to talk to anybody about the business, about the equipment, about the history of it,
Awesome. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for being on it. You're a wealth of information, and it's been a pleasure. I know going to your first event out in Las Vegas was an awesome time, and got to meet a lot of operators early on, and it's been great to connect and chat with you today. So we appreciate it. If you haven't already, yeah, perfect. Okay. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'd love to have you on and following us for years to come.
Absolutely. Will do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on The route to
The
revenue.
route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.